Welcome to Build a Better Career, the show that helps you build a better career so you can create a better life. I'm your host, Diane Bogino. It is with great delight that I welcome my guest, Gary McKinsey, business coach, to the show today. Gary is a firm believer that an individual can change their personal life, their business life, and even legislation at the state and national level. Now, the requirements for doing that are a belief in your mission and having bulldog tenacity. Prior to starting Business Winning Strategies, Gary was a principal in an accounting and income tax preparation practice where he guided small business owners to create and implement business acceleration strategies. As a congressional appointee to the White House Conference on Small Business, Gary had the opportunity to work with 3 presidents of the United States and California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Gary worked on and promoted legislation that was beneficial to small business. Gary is a past president of the National Speakers Association in Northern California and past president of the National Federation of Independent Business of Northern California. Now, here's Gary to share his winning strategies with us. Gary, welcome to the show today. It is a delight to have you.
Diane, I am delighted to be here, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to be a guest on your program.
Well, thank you. So let's start out. What motivated you to start Business Winning Strategies?
Well, Diane, for over 40 years, I worked as a business consultant and an income tax preparation business. We worked with individuals on developing business strategies. And after I sold my interest in the practice, I decided I want to go out and present programs, seminars, workshops for individuals that are thinking about going into business or they're currently in business and yet they're just not making the progress they think they should be making. I said, well, they need strategies. That's the answer. That, in a short answer, that's what prompted me to get into this business.
And what are the characteristics of your ideal client?
You know, my ideal client, ages, they seem to range from about 45 to 65 years of age. They've typically been working in corporate America or working for someone else. And at that point in their life, they're thinking, I'd like to step out and start my own business. And these individuals also are coachable. So that's a good description of my ideal client.
And what, in your experience, what's the number one challenge that individuals that want to improve their career, what do they got to overcome?
I have a twofold question, actually. First, I've noticed that individuals tend not to really believe that they got the ability or the right to have that success in their life. And the other is being able to clearly articulate what success means to them.
So would you suggest that people actually write that out, like their mission?
That's exactly what I have them do. I have them write out their vision, what success looks like for them. And since I also have a background in neurolinguistic programming, I ask them to write out exactly what they'll be seeing, what they'll be hearing, what they'll be feeling on that day that they say, oh, I've made it. This is it. And then I ask them to practice visualizing that on a daily basis.
That visualization, that's a strong tool, isn't it?
It is a powerful tool to be able to visualize success or visualize what you want to achieve. It is extremely powerful.
Now, I've heard you say a passage from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And you say that haunted you for years. And so I want you to explain the passage that haunts you. And I'm going to read it because I want to be sure to get it right. The shortcut to distinction is through public speaking. So can you expound on that just a little bit?
When I was 21 years old, I was in college, terribly unhappy with me. I was shy, lacked self-confidence. Now, had you spoken with one of my professors, they'd have said, oh, Gary does an excellent job, gets good grades, attends class regularly. Yeah, but it was me. I was terribly unhappy. And this is one of 2 books that I felt directed to purchase and read. And in that book, I came across that one passage. Now, Diane, I was looking for distinction, but not public speaking, anything but public speaking, not me. So that passage was in the back of my mind for 20 years until a Dale Carnegie program came to my town. And Diane, I attended that class scared to death. In fact, I was so self-conscious that when people in the class, my peers would say to me, Gary, that's really good. You give a great speech. I would think, well, they're just being nice because it was so poor. That was my thought process. And the big turning point there came when at the end we'd graduated and the professor said, Gary, could I speak with you for a moment? And I thought, oh, this has got to be bad news. He said, I've watched how you interact with the other students. Would you consider coming back as a teaching assistant with the Dale Carnegie program?
Wow.
Really? So for the next 3 years, Diane, I did that. And I came out of my shell and I began to develop that self-confidence. And so that passage, had I not read that passage, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation this morning.
That's a great role model for people that are, they experience imposter syndrome. As you know, Joyce Weiss and I talk about that a lot. But you must have had that as well. And you had to do a lot of work to overcome that, because public speaking is not easy, as we both know.
Yes, I had to do a lot of work on me mentally to overcome the imposter syndrome. Absolutely. And once in a while, it still kind of creeps in there. I got to say, no.
That's right. That self-talk is really important. And do you ever share that passage with the people that you coach?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm coaching a young man right now who's very analytical. And his CEO came to me and said, Gary, this individual is extremely intelligent, and yet he can't communicate, and people feel that he's not competent. So I wanted him to understand that I'd been where he is. So yeah, absolutely. I share that passage frequently.
And you do also a lot of videos. I've seen you have a YouTube channel. That's correct. Yeah.
Yes.
And is that mainly how you get your clients? How do you do your marketing?
I do my marketing. One, I certainly give presentations to business associations, ranging from chambers of commerce up to any type of business association. And also, I do write articles, and I do rely on YouTube primarily as a way to market my practice, market what I do. Video is so powerful.
Yes, it is. And I don't think that's going to go away. Would you agree with that?
Totally agree. More and more individuals want to see the video. In fact, I was speaking with an individual just last week who's a pretty accomplished speaker. And what did he say to me, Gary? Oh, send me a video. Don't ask me to read. Send me a video. How interesting.
Really?
Really? That's exactly.
So he wanted a video of what you do to explain your business.
Yes. And I was going over some concepts with him, and I said, well, let me write this out and send it to you. And he said, no. Send me a video. Just walk me through it using a video. And so that's what I did.
Gary, I've heard you talk about the relationship between value and pricing. Would you expound on that just a little bit?
That is a challenge that every business owner faces, especially ones that sell a service, although even ones that sell a product face that. And here's the issue. They understand their process of how they put their product together. What they don't understand, what they have a real trouble with articulating, or let's say explaining to their customer or prospect, is how their service will change that prospect's life. Because people, and I like this Warren Buffett quote. Warren Buffett said, price is what you pay, value is what you receive. And people are willing to pay the price if they understand the value, how your product will change their life, will solve their problem. And individuals have a terrible time being able to articulate that, being able to explain that. And so that impacts their ability to price. And of course, as you mentioned earlier, that imposter syndrome creeps into a person's mind thinking, well, is my product, is my program really that valuable? And the answer is yes, it probably is. You just you just need to be convinced of it and be able to articulate it.
That's true. And it's interesting. You make a great point there that when you have a product, people can, like people can see a product, they can touch it and feel it for the most part. Even if it's online, they have bots now where they can turn it and twist it and let you look at it.
Mhm.
But a service is different. You can't see a service. Your client, your potential client can't see that service. So it does make it more difficult to sell and market.
It does. And that's where languaging comes in also. We talk about using you-focused questions. So here again, people can say, and when we're talking about languaging, we want to use language or use words that touch on visual, auditory, and kinesthetic experience. You want to use your language to take your client into the future, let them be able to see, hear, and feel how much better their life is going to be as a result of using your product or your service, purchasing and using your service. It's how you present and how you talk about the outcome is just critical. And that's what causes a person to say, okay, yeah, here's my credit card. Sign me up.
That's right. That's right. So I do want to ask you about your past life.
Mhm.
How did you get into tax preparation? I mean, that doesn't sound too exciting to me. I'm sure it did to you, but what attracted you to that kind of work?
Initially, I was a teacher, and my wife has started a business, a home-based business. Actually, it was bookkeeping. And so I didn't feel fulfilled teaching. So I decided I went back to college, worked on a degree in accounting, and joined her and built the business and eventually merged the business with a public accounting firm and discovered that because my background is actually in science. I discovered that the relationship between science and understanding how to follow a process, a formula, was very similar to preparing income tax returns and defending your position, your deductions before the Internal Revenue Service. And so I got into that business, discovered I enjoyed it. In fact, that didn't even hit home to me, Diane, until one day, and I'll picture this. It's during tax season. I'm in my office, I have a client sitting across from me, and I'm thumbing through the paperwork. And she looked at me and leaned forward and said, Gary, do you really enjoy doing this? And I thought, well, yeah, I really do. I do enjoy doing this. And that was the first time anyone ever asked the question, and I never really thought about it.
What type of person do you think it takes to get into bookkeeping, accounting, being a CPA, tax preparation?
It's a wide open field. It's wide open. It takes an individual that is detailed oriented, because this is all about details, about keeping track of records, following the detail. Now, that's just the doing part. The part that will make them outstanding is the ability to look at a person's financial statement, looking at the numbers, and then be able to interpret those numbers and advise the individual, your client in this case, what those numbers mean, what they can do with those numbers to improve their business, to make more money. So really it's detailed oriented and the ability to explain what you're looking at to your customer and how they can use that information to improve their business.
If you gave someone some advice that wanted to get into any type of numbers business like that, would you advise them to start out on their own, just go hang out their shingle, or start with some large company, some small company? What would you advise them?
Oh, absolutely. I would advise them, if they're just getting into the practice, absolutely go to work for a company and learn the process. There's a process, and become familiar with that process and use that time in that company to develop their presentation skills. For instance, in our company, we hired really outstanding individuals who were excellent sitting in their cubicle running the numbers. And we would always tell them there comes a day when you have to stand in front of a boardroom and you've got to explain what you're looking at, explain how the board members can use this information. So you have to be able to stand and present. So I asked them to go through that process when you're working for another company. And then you got that confidence to put your shingle out and to go into business for yourself, if that's where you want to go.
Yeah, you make another great point about public speaking, and it's something that I push all the time with people. It's a skill you really must acquire because you're going to use it at some point.
Absolutely. For instance, when I'm talking with individuals that say, well, Gary, I don't really want to go out on my own. I just want to get more visibility within the company. I'd like to get better positions. I'd like to be able to be promoted. And Diane, that's where I work with them on thinking about the meetings you attend, what questions might come up, and how can you present your point of view. So we talk about that, about eye contact, and where you position yourself just in a meeting. Where do you sit so that you've got the eye, or you're in the vision of the person that's running the meeting. And by doing that, but there again, that confidence to speak up and to be able to articulate your thoughts creates that great visibility, and they become promotable.
That's right. And it's the same message for entrepreneurs if they're trying to market or sell their product to a client.
Absolutely. They've got to be able to explain. And I'll comment one more thought here about entrepreneurs. This area I work with entrepreneurs on initially, when they attend a meeting, quite often they're asked, well, stand up and introduce yourself. And this is that first impression is so powerful. So many individuals, maybe even their competitors, will stand up quickly and say, well, my name is Gary McKinsey and I'm da-da-da-da, and they sit right down. No. Stand up, pause, look at the individuals, say, my name is Gary McKinsey, and then maybe your positioning statement, but say it slowly and clearly. And that creates confidence. Says, I'm confident, and your audience hears you and they, oh, this person's confident. They know what they're doing.
That's right. You've got to have confidence in you, and you've got to convey that confidence to your potential client or employer, either way. Gary, how do you prefer people get in touch with you?
They can certainly go to my website, yet my preference is send me an email. Just send an email to me, Gary@GaryMcKinsey.com, and let me spell McKinsey for you. This is an unusual spelling. The spelling is McKinsey. And the email is my preferred method of contacting me.
Okay, great. And any parting thoughts for the audience today?
My parting thought is believe in yourself, believe in your ability, have a vision for what success means to you, be able to articulate it. And then if you're not quite sure where to start, think about what's the simplest, smallest step I can take, and then take that step, and then keep taking that step every day until you get to that point to think, wow, I've arrived. This is success.
That's right. Gary, you've brought some great information, both for entrepreneurs, people that are trying to grow their business, and for people that want to get into the business that you do, either as an entrepreneur or as an employee. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, and Diane, thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to be and participate in your program.
Thank you for watching Build a Better Career. We've been speaking with business coach Gary McKinsey. I'm your host, Diane Bogino, helping you build a better career so you can create a better life.